Okay. Wow, thank you.
The guest brings in a mixed media artwork created by artist Beverly Buchanan. Beverly Buchanan was an artist from North Carolina who studied art in New York under abstract expressionist artists like Norman Lewis and Romare Bearden. The guest said that she returned to the South in the 1970s, which depicted the homes and lives of rural African Americans in Georgia. The guest shared how this masterpiece came to her.
My grandmother was Beverly's CPA and became her friend over that relationship, and she collected a lot of her art throughout their friendship, both being gifted it and purchasing it.
This amazing artwork is a mixed media piece featuring a house made of a wooden base painted blue and brown. It has unique details like buttons, a salt shaker, sequins, and a spool of thread used as a basket. The appraiser estimates the value of the artwork to be between $10,000 and $15,000 at auction, with the possibility of exceeding that amount.
So if this were to go to auction, I believe that the estimate would be $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow.
Figures inherited by the guest were showcased. The figures belonged to the guest's parents, who lived in New York City. Later, the statues were converted into lamps by the guest's mother in 1967. The appraiser identified the figures as Chinese, dating back to the Ming Dynasty in the 17th century. One figure was a Buddhist, and the other was a Taoist, traditionally never displayed together. The figures were made of bronze, a durable material, and were beautifully painted. Traces of polychroming and gliding were visible on the figures. The Taoist figure was believed to bring fortune to newlywed couples.
Commonly, those would have been given as gifts at a wedding ceremony or displayed at something like that to bring good fortune to the new couple.
The other figure represented one of the 8 Chinese immortals, Lu Dongbin, and the appraiser identified symbols indicating its importance.
The figure is standing on a pedestal that has mountains rising with waves lapping over them, a dragon diving in, which is the imperial animal.
Yeah.
Despite the alterations, the appraiser estimated its value to be
that this one would achieve a price of between $5,000 and $8,000.
Great.
And that the He He Er Xian would be likely to sell for around $4,000 to $6,000.
Wonderful.
Remarkable piece that has been on the guest mother's dresser basically all of her life. It is signed by a very prominent woman sculptor, Bessie Potter Vano, who worked in the early part of the 20th century. It was cast by the Roman Bronze Works of New York City, which was a very prominent foundry at the time. The sculpture is very fluidly modeled, with a very nice texture to it. It was cast in a lost wax process that rendered the very clear details which you see on this piece. This elegant piece is still in very nice condition, and it has its original green patina. An intricate work by Bessie Potter Vano, it's also highly desirable. At auction, it would fetch.
In a gallery setting, this piece is probably worth between $20,000 and $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Guest arrived with the Van Briggle Lorelei vase. Dying from tuberculosis, he sought the healing climate of Colorado Springs. Van Briggle is the artist of this vase. He made Lorelei's from 1897 until he died in 1904. When we look at the bottom of this piece, there's no date on it in his handwriting. Appraised between $20,000 and $30,000, likely no later than 1904. If it's 1900, the range would be $50,000 to $100,000. Grieving the loss of his dad, this guest walked into a Goodwill store and picked up this painting. He felt it was a good omen from his dad, but he had no idea that it was the work of Eugene Muir. Eugene Muir was born in France and moved to Paris in 1860, where he became good friends with artists like Pierre-Auguste Renoir and Camille Pissarro. Muir gained fame as a pastry chef, but because of his friends, he occasionally painted, and he was good at it. Interestingly, Renoir also made a painting like this one, which suggests that the pair made the painting together. And this famous painting of Muir in his pastry shop was made by Camille Pissarro. The guest bought this piece for $50, but how much would it fetch in retail now? The appraiser estimated its worth to be between $5,000 to $7,000.
Oh boy. Pretty good.
Whose father was an art collector, presented a Mortlock Island mask and Solomon Island canoe prow. On the left side is an authentic mask from the Mortlock Island, Micronesia. Mortlock Island is the only place where masquerade is performed in the region, and all of their masks resemble this one.
Stylistically, the painting is a little bit Baroque on this. We're looking at a 19th century mask and probably the latter part of the 19th century, somewhere between 1875 and 1900.
Collectors who acquired masks feel it's important to have one of these in their collection because no other mask could represent Micronesia well. The Solomon Island canoe prow, on the other hand, is a decorative prow that's on the front of a fishing or hunting canoe. It is also believed it acts to protect the crew during the voyage. It typically depicts a large head, small arms, and circular ear adornments, and the jutting jaws were traditionally held to be an attribute of spirits. Mortlock are extremely rare, and even with the condition of the back and the Baroque painting, it would auction at.
And this piece here, I would go in and I would catalog the Mortlock at $20,000 to $25,000.
Okay.
On this piece, I would go $10,000 to $15,000.
Antique clock represents timeless craftsmanship and charm, blending artistry with functionality. The guest recounted the history of a clock from their grandfather, who received it from her father after her mother's passing. Acquired approximately 15 years ago, the clock weighed around 25 pounds, adorned the guest mantle. Since then, despite its age and solid brass construction with intricate inlays, the guest has no information regarding its origin or age. However, they speculated it to be over 100 years old. The appraiser identified the clock as a product of the New Haven Clock Company, lasting 8 days and chimes every hour and a half. It has an outside escapement that moves the dials when the clock runs. The clock boasted tiles produced by the J&JG Low Tile Company in Chelsea, Massachusetts, set within a brass frame with putty designs. Dating back to the late 19th century, the clock embodied elements of both Victorian and Art Nouveau styles. While recognizing the intricate details of the clock, the appraiser said,
"These will retail for usually about $4,000 to $4,500.
That's great.
Down to him after centuries in his family's possession, today's guest shows us his family's silver dress dagger.
My family lived here for 550 years till 1946, when my grandfather gave lime to the National Trust.
Made in the 16th century, the shrine of this dagger is still engaging. A close look at the dagger reveals the use of mineral stones, but not only that, it's also crafted from silver. We can also see that the handle is made to stand firm. Perhaps the most distinguishing feature of this dagger is its exquisite craftsmanship, and thus, most likely, the early users didn't even use it for war. It is believed that the dagger was made in Italy as a symbol of a man's wealth and elegance.
So we're looking at a piece that's a symbol really of a man's wealth, his elegance and his refinement. You think of the clothes they wore at court in the 16th century.
Yes.
It's no wonder it auctions at
between £15,000 and £25,000.
Really? Yeah.
It's very, very... Keep it down.
In a collection of vases decorated by her grandmother, who worked for the Sunday Evening Girls, SEG, at the Paul Revere Pottery. The SEG was a unique workplace that provided education, cultural enrichment, and better working conditions for young immigrant women. SEG initially focused on educational and social activities for immigrant women, but later became known for its pottery. While the guest's grandmother primarily worked as a bookkeeper for the SEG, there was a possibility that she had decorated some of the vases. The collection included 2 vases. The vase with a black glaze, estimated to be from 1925 to 1930, had the SEG markings and were typical of Paul Revere's pottery style. It is valued each at,
Estimate this piece for between $5,000 and $7,000.
The second vase has a green and black glaze and depicted a scene more akin to European styles. It is believed that this vase is a pre-existing piece not made by SEG, but possibly decorated by them later. It was hand-thrown and has a unique iridescent finish, making it even more valuable. The vase showcased the SEG's adaptation to changing market trends, and even though known for their landscape designs, incorporated European styles to stay relevant. The estimated value at auction is,
I would have to say the same, $5,000 to $7,000. It's not what people look for.
uncover the intriguing journey behind a remarkable Navajo pictorial. The guest shared that they acquired the Navajo pictorial from a friend who sourced it in the Southwest. The Navajo pictorial, while historically significant and artistically valuable, exhibits signs of wear and tear. Stains mar its surface, and there are noticeably fraying ends. These condition issues detract slightly from its overall appearance, but do not diminish its cultural and historical significance. While acknowledging the condition of the Navajo pictorial, the appraiser said,
I think because of its condition, it would be worth about $3,000 to $5,000 as is. If you could clean some of these stains out and get the ends restored, it could be as valuable as $8,000 to $12,000.
Down to her by her parents, this oil painting is a delight to behold.
Mostly known for his stained glass, but he was originally trained as a painter.
Despite being a masterpiece, this painting was inexplicably kept in a boiler room.
Of all places, along with another painting, and they asked my parents if they would like it.
But against all odds, the painting maintained its quality and tenacity. This painting was made by Louis Comfort Tiffany, the renowned artist, in 1870. As we can see, the painting, which was created using a unique version of oil, depicts a ship being unloaded at a dock. It is likely that at the time, this was the most significant type of painting, which meant it was in demand, but it remains a quality piece.
But this looks oddly clean. Ultimately, framing oil paintings behind glass isn't a good idea.
The painting also features a port and includes tiny fine details for a painting of such magnificence. Truth be told, for an oil painting that has stood the test of time, this value of this painting automatically shoots up to be valued at,
put this at auction today, you'd be looking at an estimate of $25,000 to $35,000.
Wow, that's impressive. That's quite amazing for such a small painting.
The guest brought in half compacts that belong to her grandmother's sisters. They are produced by Tiffany & Company, an American luxury jewelry and specialty design house headquartered in Manhattan.
And back at the turn of the century, they manufactured things like this for young ladies.
Tiffany & Company was founded in 1837 by the jeweler Charles Louis Tiffany. The company's product line features fine jewelry, sterling silver, watches, porcelain, fragrance, and personal accessories, as well as leather goods, and operates over 300 stores globally in many countries. These compacts are very ornate and dressy. It has a mirror, rouge, and powder inside, and it's not a full compact, but a half compact.
Now, these are 14 karat gold.
Oh, great.
You have roughly somewhere around $3,500 in gold alone.
The pieces are engraved, but because you can't get the initials out, brings the value down a bit. But based on its maker's reputation, they are estimated at.
So you've got to really insure this for between $8,000 and $10,000.
Oh my goodness!
Plains pictograph drawing, found in the possessions of the guest's father-in-law after his passing, is a remarkable piece of Native American art with a rich history. The drawing is attributed to Bad Eye, chief of the Cheyenne, who was confined at Fort Marion in St. Augustine, Florida, in 1878. This period marked the surrender of the Southern Plains Indians, including the Cheyenne, Comanche, and Kiowa.
While there, they did pictograph drawings and ledger books. There was actually a Bad Eye.
The drawing depicts a scene from the height of Plains Indian culture, showcasing warriors adorned with German silver bridles and Mexican Salito serape saddle blankets. There are name glyphs representing animals and warriors, providing a glimpse into the artist's perspective of their culture. The appraiser values this ledger drawing, purchased by the guest's father-in-law, at
auction, this Plains pictograph drawing would sell for about $8,000 to $12,000.
Oh goodness. That's good.
That's good.
Father, this rifle and bayonet, made by the Turner Society, a German athletic society, looks like it's worth a ton.
He was a competitive shooter, and his wife had a friend who had been recently widowed, and she didn't want this in the house along with another gun. She was going to toss them off the bridge into the Ohio River.
Despite the athletic nature implied by their name, the Turner Society frequently engaged in target shooting, hence the need for the rifle. It came in handy during the American Civil War. The rifle is different from every other rifle owing to its bayonet bar, and this bayonet bar allows the addition of a knife called a bayonet. The rifle likely came from the Cincinnati area and was made by Henry Siebert. The bayonet is also special in the sense that it is marked with Bon Fry, which meant it was important during war. The relics evokes the historical context of the war, and it unsurprisingly sells for around,
I would put a very conservative auction estimate on this set at between $4,000 and $6,000.
is usually termed as a game of might and strength, and today's piece is a jersey from the beloved sport. This piece is a 1978 Monday Night Football jersey from the now-defunct Baltimore Colts, which belonged to one of their players who had the game of his life that day, Joe Washington. Washington was an American former professional football player who was a running back for the NFL.
Both are facing off against the Patriots, right?
Correct.
Okay.
As we can see, this jersey is riddled with holes because Washington had asked our guest, who at the time was a ball boy for the Baltimore Colts, to make them help Washington get away from the opposing defenders.
The NFL actually ended up banning tearaway jerseys.
Upon turning the jersey, we see that the jersey number has been ripped up, which tells us the kind of game Washington had that day. This jersey from one of America's most beloved sports, with the history accompanied with it, at insurance value would be...
Insurance-wise, we're looking at $6,000 to $8,000 is right around what you could expect to place on this for insurance.
Okay.
Bronze carving stands out from the ordinary. Dating back to the 1860s, it's a captivating work of art crafted by the Russian artist Nikolai Lieberich. His significance in history lies in his role during a pivotal transition away from academic sculpture.
So before this, most academic sculpture was historical figures, literary figures, royalty, all of those kinds of things. So this marked a really big change where they're depicting everyday people, everyday life.
The carving vividly captures the everyday life of a hunter on horseback. Interestingly, the guest acquired this piece from her mother's house. Now, as for its retail value, it would be approximately...
It's worth about $20,000 on a retail setting.
Wow.
Glance at this exquisite piece is enough to leave anyone mesmerized. Behold a rare Japanese cloisonné vase, its origins tracing back from the 1920s to 1930s. Crafted by renowned Ando Workshop, the Ando artisans were celebrated for their magnificent cloisonné work during the Meiji era.
And the Ando Workshop produced magnificent cloisonné works during the Meiji period. And then as they went into the early 20th century, the work's quality diminished.
But how did the guest come to possess this treasure?
My husband was cleaning out a home in Fairfield County, and it was going into a dumpster. He thought it was nice, and I love flowers and vases, so he brought it home, and that's how I acquired it.
So he saved it.
He saved it.
Interestingly, what was once destined for disposal would auction at...
Then it would be worth, at auction, $800 to $1,200. Now, with this raised, low-relief enamel at auction, I would give it an estimate of $4,000 to $6,000.
Oh, wow.
This chair, with its perplexing presence, once sent shivers down the guest's spine.
I was about 5 or 6, and it just terrified me. They used to call it the man chair.
The chair was purportedly won in a poker game by the guest's grandfather and rumored to have originated from a bordello. It belongs to the category of fantasy furniture, featuring a mask of the Green Man, symbolizing rebirth in nature. Usually, the Green Man symbol is typically seen on smaller pieces of furniture, but this unique chair showcases the full embodiment of the Green Man. Details like knuckles and cuffs make the chair's craftsmanship remarkable. Touching the chair evokes a sense of realism. The label indicates it was made by the Harry J. Dean Company in Detroit around 1890. It's crafted from mahogany, enhancing both its value and durability.
I'd put a value on this, probably for fair market value purposes, right in the range of $3,000.
Okay.
Father was the late NFL Hall of Famer Henry Jordan. Henry played defense for the Green Bay Packers.
He was defensive tackle, and at the time he was the smallest defensive tackle in the NFL. He has a lot of cards out there, and they all say something different, but he was maybe 6'2" on a good day.
They brought in some jeweled souvenirs that their mother split among them when their father passed away in 1977. There are beautiful rings for, and a charm that depicted, Henry Jordan was acquired in a trade by Vince Lombardi in 1959, sending him from Cleveland to the Green Bay Packers.
So in 1959, Vince Lombardi traded for your dad?
Yes.
To bring him from Cleveland to the Packers. The rest is history.
After a prolific NFL career, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1995. The combined value of these jeweled items would likely auction at...
At auction, combined, this would bring $75,000
really?
to $100,000.
Surprisingly, their insurance value is...
Between $150,000 to $200,000.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, when this came in, we were thrilled. My eyes I lit up.
Brought back this amazing cabinet from China in 1969 upon his retirement from the military. He had served as a linguist during his service. It's a cosmetic chest made in China around 1700 to 1730. Made from Hungguali wood, a prized wood native to Asia. The chest is very well styled and beautifully crafted. It features intricate drawings of dragons, flowering branches, and a lotus.
Indicative of long life.
Which suggest it was once used to store precious jewels and valuable accessories. The cabinet would be auctioned at...
At auction today, I would expect this to make $40,000 to $60,000.
I don't know what to say.
Here before us are the relics of a bygone era of the Boston Red Sox. These weren't mere pins and a watch. They belonged to the guest grandfather, Charles Wagner, a champion from the golden age of baseball. Back then, rings weren't given, but these medals and the finely crafted watch serve as a testament to his victories. Here we have a portion of panoramic photograph showcasing the triumphant 1915 championship team. But the true magic lies in these exquisitely preserved championship medallions, watch, and medal, each one extremely desirable. This one here is from 1912.
This is from 1916. It's a watch. And this one, very beautiful. This is from 1915.
Each piece, meticulously engraved with the name Charles Wagner, is a mark of pride and dedication. Finally, this sweater, a potential relic from his playing days from 1912 to 1916.
It's of immeasurable rarity. The condition of this thing looks like he took it off yesterday. I mean, the color.
It's in pristine condition, complete with original tags, and it speaks volumes about the care it has received. This collection transcends mere memorabilia. Imagine the stories these treasures could tell. The whole collection would easily fetch...
I'd insure it for $300,000.
Wow.
Captivating ring whispers of a bygone era, once gracing the hand of the guest grandmother's first husband, Harry Rich.
And he was a magician and aerialist back in the teens and 20s.
Back in 1926, it was a remarkable acquisition, costing a cool $1,000. A hefty sum back then. The stone itself is a unique gem, known as a Cape stone. Imagine a diamond with a touch of personality, a subtle hint of light yellow that sets it apart. This beauty is surprisingly clean and well preserved. Crafted in the early 1920s, this ring boasts a cutting-edge setting. Back then, platinum was still new in the jewelry business, and this ring proudly utilizes it. Notice the 8 prongs holding the diamond securely. This is because the ring was built for a man to wear. The star of the show, however, is the diamond itself, a nice light yellow and an impressive weight of a little over 7 carats, boasting a classic European cut. Were it graded as a light fancy yellow diamond, its value could potentially reach...
At auction, $60,000 to $80,000. Wow. Yeah.
trophy was showcased by the guest, which had been a first-place trophy from the Canton Sailings Regatta in 1859. The appraiser identified it as an example of China trade silver, popular during the maritime era in Canton. Trophies like this were made for sailors who engaged in different recreational activities during sailing. They were typically made for the Chinese market, where customers would visit and pick out designs of their own choice to be engraved. This particular trophy features acanthus leaves, differing from the typical Chinese market style. The appraiser noticed the pseudo-English hallmark.
And in the middle of that, you see the three letters that distinguish this as having been made by Ko-Ching, a very prominent silversmith in the mid-part of the 19th century for China.
The estimated worth of this wonderful item was...
In a well-advertised auction, this should sell somewhere in the range of between $5,000 and $8,000.
He brought in an oil on canvas painted by artist John Frost, dated 1922, acquired by his grandfather, who was involved with the Hollywood studios in the 1920s and 1930s.
So I just assumed my grandfather knew this artist and purchased it probably from the artist directly.
John Frost, a well-known artist from Pennsylvania, moved to California for health reasons and became popular for his desert landscapes, influenced by time spent painting in Palm Springs. Born in 1890, John was the son of a famous illustrator, Arthur B. Frost, and connected with prominent artists like Guy Rose. Despite his affluent background, John was characterized as more of a playboy than a dedicated artist.
Most of the time, he is seeing the landscape from behind a golf club or a riding crop.
Nevertheless, his desert scenes are highly sought after. At auction, with scarcity playing a significant role in determining its value, the painting is estimated to be worth between...
I think you could reasonably expect an estimate of $25,000 to $35,000.
Oh, that's good. Very nice.
Tribal rug was passed down through generations in the guest's family. The rug's history dates back beyond the guest's 70 years, likely originating from their grandparents. The appraiser admired the rug's primitive and naive design, characteristic of tribal rugs made by nomads for the marketplace. The rug featured a depiction of a camel and human figures in its design, showcasing the weaver's creativity. The use of natural dyes, along with a synthetic dye called fuchsine, helped date the rug to around 1900. Despite its age, the rug was in remarkably good condition and valued at approximately...
Do you see how it's purple?
Yeah.
So this dye was introduced in the 1860s, and it faded from a purple to a beige.
Oh, so these used to be
That used to be bright purple.
Wow.
So this is about a 1900 rug.
Right, wow.
Well, it's in strikingly good condition for its age. Now, in terms of value, I would say that in today's market, if you had to go out and buy a rug like this, you'd have to pay about $4,000 retail.
The guest expressed a newfound appreciation for the rug's history and craftsmanship.
I'm sure. I buy Oriental.
His father passed down this spoon rack, retrieved from their family storage unit in Rockmart, Georgia. The appraiser identified this spoon rack as an exceptional chip-carved piece, likely crafted during the family's time in Massachusetts. The use of white pine in its construction strongly indicates its origin in the 17th century. The rack featured intricate pinwheel designs and a heart motif, with the notable date 1764 carved on one side. Due to its rarity and historical significance, the appraiser estimated its auction value to be...
At auction, we think this would bring $3,000 to $5,000.
The guest was surprised to hear the value.
Really? You really?
Brought a pocket watch bought 15 years ago from a London antique shop for £1,000. Believed to be from the mid-1800s, the piece was made to commemorate the British Crown's restoration on its 200th anniversary. The watch's movement, uniquely carved in the shape of the British Crown, was intended for the royal family, but never presented. The appraiser was captivated by the magnificent watch, which housed an intriguing fusee-driven mechanism within its 18-karat gold case labeled chronometer. Opening it revealed decorative features, including a royal crown with ruby jewels, a detent chronometer escapement for accuracy, and a blue hairspring controlling the balance wheel. Despite lacking provenance, it was a wonderful timepiece exhibiting accuracy and rarity. How much wealth could a smart purchase bring at an auction?
For insurance value in today's market, I would put a value of $10,000 on the watch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wonderful piece.
and a good buy.
You made a very good buy.
Yeah.
For history, today's guest got a signed Babe Ruth photo as an heirloom from his dad.
This is my father when he was 9 years old. 1947, Babe Ruth was promoting youth baseball.
Babe Ruth was an American baseball player whose career spanned 22 years. He's considered by many as the greatest of all time in baseball. And that's why this signed photo holds such high value. The photo shows Babe Ruth with our guest's father in 1947.
Does your dad remember what Babe Ruth was like, meeting him?
He said he was very nice.
Babe Ruth was known to be a children's lover, which might have explained the photo. But in fact, the picture was for a tour at the time. Nevertheless, this picture is worth a lot, and because of its artist popularity, the piece was estimated at.
But if I were going to insure these photos, and the value I would put is $5,000 a piece for these photos.
Oh, that's amazing.
Things can be valuable, especially when they are crafted by professionals. The appraiser talked about a special basket passed down through the client's husband's family, given by A. Caroline after their wedding. It's from Charleston, South Carolina, made around 1850 to 1855 before the Civil War. Skillfully crafted by the Hayden brothers, the artifact boasted a rarity that captivated collectors. The basket has a cool mix of American and European styles with a Greek key design that was trendy in Europe but old-fashioned in England at the time. American craftsmen were inspired by European trends but adapted them slower. On the basket, there were signs of wear and tear expected from an item over a century old, such as minor scratches, dents, and tarnishing. However, the structural integrity of the basket remained intact with no significant damage or missing parts. While recognizing the condition of the basket, the appraiser said,
I would probably say it was worth something like $1,500 to $2,000. However, as it's got the southern connection and it's, around the 1850s, it's that little bit earlier, it's probably more like $3,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lovely thing.
Great. That's great.
a special book to the show, a signed copy of The Trials of Jimmy Hoffa, gifted to his mom by the Teamsters' controversial leader himself. Jimmy Hoffa was the union leader of the Teamsters and built it up to become one of the most powerful unions in the country. He went on trial a few times, was found guilty, sentenced to jail, and eventually pardoned by Nixon. The signature itself, "Good luck, James Hoffa," added an intriguing layer, a final message from a man shrouded in mystery. While the book itself held historical significance, its commercial value wasn't extraordinary. If the mystery surrounding Hoffa's disappearance were ever to be solved, the book's value could skyrocket due to the renewed public interest. However, the absence of the dust jacket diminished its appeal to collectors, keeping the estimated value at
20 years ago, you said it was $300. It's probably still that $300 to $500 in a retail setting.
Often come across a well-designed bowl such as this, a Wedgwood Fairyland Luster Bowl. Brought onto the show by this guest, this intricate bowl was designed by a woman called Daisy Making Jones. She was well known for her signature Fairyland luster designs in the early 1900s. The bowl's design depicts elves and goblins dancing through the woods. The decoration features layers which adds some magic and glimmer to it. However, a bowl this fascinating with intricate designs and decorative features is expected to command a high price at the auction. It is estimated to be worth,
I would probably estimate it between $6,000 and $8,000.
If you ever want to look like a movie star, then this auction is for you.
Joseph of Hollywood can make costume jewelry made of glass and base metal look antique and glamorous, or he can make it look like $1 million.
Some of these pieces were part of iconic Hollywood movies. The appraiser Rhinestone Rosie met up with the host to take a look at some of the sparkling pieces made by Joseph during the 1930s. The guest told the appraiser that Joseph never sold his jewelry to the movies, but only rented it.
So he built this stockpile that could be used over and over and over again in different shapes, different movies, different composites.
The appraiser showcased pieces worn in iconic movies, such as these earrings that were worn by Grace Kelly in High Society in 1956.
We actually have an example of that. We have two pair of earrings here, and one of them was worn by a big movie star, and the other was one that could be purchased by anyone who wants to look like a movie.
Pieces worn by movie stars hold significant value, far exceeding their worth as mere costume jewelry. The necklace worn by Scarlett O'Hara, Vivian Leigh, in Gone with the Wind was estimated to be worth $100,000 to $150,000 at a well-advertised auction. The pair of earrings worn by Grace Kelly for a movie called High Society in 1956 were estimated to be worth around $7,500 at auction. The pair of earrings designed in the style of Grace Kelly's earrings for the retail market were valued at $225 to $250.
Well, it's great to hear the story of Eugene Joseph and stand here amongst all this very historic jewelry, and great to talk to you about it.
Thank
you. But so are watches, and this $8,000 Julius Osman watch is proof. This watch passed down through generations within the Guest family.
It appears from the engraving that's in there, it seems like it was a gift to the family, because it says in Spanish, to the family of Ricardo Richards.
The design reflected the style of Spanish America, particularly Cuba, showcasing exquisite craftsmanship and intricate detailing.
You can see that the jewels in the watch are each in individual little gold cups.
Unlike typical Swiss watches, this 1880 timepiece hailed from Germany.
If we open it up, you'll see the dial isn't the typical white enamel that you'd expect to see on a watch.
Its superior quality was highlighted by 20 rubies, surpassing the standard 17 jewel watches of its era. The appraiser estimated $6,000 to $8,000 for this exquisite watch.
On the other hand, a watch by Julius Assmann in this beautiful condition is probably worth, if you were trying to sell it at auction, between $6,000 and $8,000.
Family heirloom, an English bracket clock, was brought to the show by this guest. The clock comes in an ebonized case with a brass dial and is adorned with applied spandrels on its sides. This also includes chapter rings and a dial that indicate the distinctive strike-silent functionality of the bracket clock. Its impressive working mechanism includes a 5-bell movement and an adapted false pendulum that provides automation, indicating that the clock is working. On the front is also a written signature of the maker, Nicholas Lambert, while the engraved backplate consists of components such as the cowtail pendulum and the 6 bells. Despite the condition issues of this clock, the appraiser values it at around $18,000. On a date with her husband, this guest found what she thought was a cool but odd button. But she didn't know this button was an important piece of history. It was one of the buttons made to commemorate the inauguration of the first American president, George Washington. The historic inauguration was initially slated for March 17, 1789, but then moved to April 30th, 1789. This particular button was made for March 17th, the original inauguration date. Because of this relic's importance to history, the appraiser placed a value of $3,000 in 2007. In 2020, the value went up to $5,000.
Terrific. How wonderful. Great.
Guest excitedly presented a beautiful filigree box, originally purchased for a mere £20 at a watch fair. He intended to use it as a housing for a 16th century watch movement. However, a chance encounter with a reference book revealed the box itself was an extraordinary historical artifact. Filigree boxes, while exquisite works of art, rarely bore any marks or hallmarks. This particular box sported not only intricate filigree work, but also clear hallmarks that identified its origin and date. The hallmarks revealed the box was crafted in Glasgow by William Clark in 1696. The filigree technique, the presence of marks, and the Glasgow origin make the box unbelievably rare and incredibly valuable. At an auction, the box is worth,
I'm pretty comfortable in saying £3,000 to £5,000.
Oh. Well, I'm staggered. Absolutely staggered.
Theodore Grust oil painting was brought to the show by a guest who inherited it from his mother. Theodore Grust was born in Meissen, Germany on August 27, 1859. A painter, he occasionally worked on canvas, but he was best known for his porcelain painting. This painting depicts 2 girls reading sheet music in old costumes in a seated position. Beneath the painting are the abbreviations Theo and MCHN, which stands for Theodore and Munich, respectively. substantiating that it was made in Munich around the 1890s. Although the painting has been restored after being damaged by the Nazis, it still holds considerable value due to the rarity of Grust paintings in the auction market. The appraiser valued the painting at about $30,000.
Really?
Isn't that nice?
That's nice.
It
Very
is.
nice.
Prüster Goblets was brought to the show by this guest, who had inherited it from her glass collector grandmother. Otto Prüster was an Austrian architect and designer who was a member of the all-important arts and crafts movements, from the Secession to the Wiener Werkstatt and the Werkbund. These award-winning glass pieces changed the wine glass-making landscape and won many honors in global expositions after they were designed in 1907 and produced by Bakalowitz Company. The intricate and difficult process involved in crafting these goblets makes them rare and adds significant value to them. The appraiser valued these goblets at around $6,000 to $8,000 each.
Each?
Yes.
Wow.
Each. Thank you for bringing them.
Thank you. I'll keep the cat away from them. Thank you.
Pottery is from the San Ildefonso Pueblo in New Mexico. San Ildefonso Pueblo is famous for its black-on-black pottery. Black-on-black pottery was a traditional art medium of Native Americans, which was lost in time. Maria and Julian Martinez revitalized this style and created what is now a modern version of her. Their work gained global recognition and has become a huge part of the Native American culture. It's been featured in many museums, like the Weizmann Art Museum. They died in 1943 and 1980, respectively, and their grandchildren are now carrying on their pottery legacy. How much would it cost to own a piece of history like this? The appraiser thought it was worth about $4,500.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Historical artifacts that commemorate World War I.
In addition to being 4.5 million men in service, every single one of those gentlemen was going to need a new coat approximately every 79 days.
Thus, the uniforms showcased today serve as reminders of this pivotal historical period.
That tell you who this fellow was and what he did. These two chevrons tell us that the soldier served overseas for a minimum of 12 months. Each one of those signifies 6 months overseas service.
These uniforms held significance as they were worn by Army troops and the Army Air Service, as indicated by the Air Service Rondel shoulder insignia. Even more remarkable is the presence of chevrons on these uniforms indicating active service. Additionally, there is a War Medal of Italian origin. These two uniforms represent America's patriotism at its peak. Thus, these revolutionary World War I uniforms would command a significant price at auction.
The collector can expect to pay between $1,000 and $1,500 at retail unless there's something else particularly special that drives the value high.
Paintings are created with love and happiness. During a discussion about a painting, Joseph Nawahai, a significant figure in Hawaii's history, is mentioned. In addition to painting, he practiced law and managed a newspaper. The painting depicts renowned Hawaiian landmarks like Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. Despite Nawahai not being a professional painter, he led the way in Hawaii by adopting Western painting styles early on. The figures in the painting are described as somewhat stiff. Found in a shop, the painting was restored and now holds significant potential value. The owner, who is Hawaiian, expresses pride in possessing it, considering it a treasure. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
If this were to be up at auction today, I would probably put an estimate of $100,000 to $150,000 on it.
Are you kidding?
It's a great thing.
It tells about Arthur Ludwig Prinzhorn, a photographer from 1901. He took cool pictures of Sioux Indians in New York. Prinzhorn even made his own camera. Although it's not in great shape now, it's still important. We found a few pictures and frames, but most are just loose. Sadly, the camera doesn't have its lens or shutter, and it's not in good shape. The photos are like a history book, showing life after the fighting. They also show Wild West shows and people riding horses. Keeping these photos safe is really important to remember our family's past. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
That probably kicks it up to $18,000 to $20,000 for insurance.
My goodness gracious. My grandfather would have been thrilled.
Very often that we see a figurine such as this one. This particular figurine is famously known as the Alka-Seltzer Speedy figure. The guest acquired this figurine while working at a bakery in Los Angeles in 1969. This figure was created as a form of advertisement for Alka-Seltzer medication. Featuring a cheerful smile, green-colored eyes, and a hat, the figurine also has a shape resembling the Alka-Seltzer pill on the front of its torso. Interestingly, this figurine is actually in good condition, and that would influence its value positively at auction. Also, the appraisal added that this is a historically significant advertising figure that he had never seen before, coupled with its impeccable preservation, and valued it around.
Would be thrilled to pay $4,000 to $5,000 for this incredible Speedy Alka-Seltzer.
In a surprising turn of events, the owner of the figure reached out months later to the Roadshow collector who had initially appraised it, looking to sell the item, and he successfully sold it to the collector. However, in today's market, the collector later opined that this figurine, with its historical significance to medicine and advertisement form, would sell at around...
At auction, I would probably estimate it at like $2,000 to $3,000. A little bit less than I paid for it, but I don't care. I love it.
Brought in a treasure trove for vintage guitar enthusiasts, a Fender Stratocaster with an exceptional pedigree. The accompanying bill of sale, dated 1956, hinted at the guitar's age, but the true revelation came from the serial number. Examining it, the guitar was identified as one of the earliest Stratocasters ever produced, likely crafted in 1954. This wasn't just any Stratocaster, it was an instrument brimming with originality. While the guitar had replacement knobs and pickup covers, possibly due to the brittleness of the original ash wood, most other parts remained untouched. It's worth pointing out the exceptional quality of the ash wood used in the guitar's body, highlighting the unusual straight grain that resembled a violin or acoustic guitar. Considering the guitar's early production year, its near original condition, and the enduring popularity of vintage Stratocasters, the valuation is placed between
$50,000 and $70,000.
Inherited this stunning rug from her mother-in-law's estate 5 years ago. It's a Persian rug made around 1890 to 1900, originating from Shreveport, Louisiana. This masterpiece is known as a Laver Kerman, celebrated for its exquisite craftsmanship. With approximately 300 knots per square inch, it showcases incredible attention to detail. The intricate design showcases what is known as a millefleur design, or 1,000 flowers. It reflects a fusion of Victorian and Art Nouveau styles, prevalent during its creation.
Starting to be influenced by the Art Nouveau, and so there's a very flowing quality to the design that is evocative of what was happening with the Art Nouveau decoration.
The rich burgundy color is derived from an insect dye found on cactus, further enhancing its uniqueness. It's common for rugs to unravel, as evidenced by the frayed edges. Skillful restoration by a professional can improve its condition. Despite the absent border, its estimated value remains around...
If I were selling this in my gallery, I would sell it for about $8,500.
Okay. Lovely Chinese jade collection makes its way to the show. This collection belonged to the guest's husband, who got it as a trade while in Korea. What he traded for it is unknown.
You know, even though he got this in Korea, these are Chinese jades. The vast majority of these were carved in the 18th century during the reign of the Emperor Qianlong.
He loved white jade, which was mined predominantly in northwest China.
And his taste for these wonderful small carvings, scholars' objects such as this bee disc, this little censer, and this brush washer, were all made for the imperial court.
He set the precedent for the acquisition of jades, as other wealthy merchants also soon started collecting them.
Of the entire collection, the most important pieces are this piece, the bee disc, the censer, and the incense vase.
These are valued individually at $10,000 to $15,000 each. This entire collection is collectively valued at about...
Would bring probably now, because the market is really hot, $40,000 to $60,000 easily at auction.
I'm really very, very pleased, astounded.
In 2020, its value rose to about $60,000 to $90,000. What do you think would it value in today's market? Let me know in the comments.
Would you be terrified to wear a piece of jewelry that cost hundreds of thousands? This man brought in a collection of 1920s jewelry that belonged to his great aunt, Indiola. When Indiola got married to an airline promoter, they lived in the high societies of New York, and the guest presumed that she purchased the pieces from there. All the jewelries he brought were high-grade Art Deco pieces, including an engraved rock crystal with seed pearl and diamond necklace, a diamond bracelet, a diamond brooch with a Ceylon sapphire, natural pearl necklace, and a Golconda diamond ring.
When you talk to a connoisseur of diamonds, and if you say you have a Golconda stone, this is the type of thing that makes them weak in the knees, basically.
Great.
The jewelries didn't have any marks on them, but their designs indicated that some were American while some were European. One of the jewelries valued as high as
at auction would be between $70,000 and $90,000.
Wow. In total, they all valued between $145,000 to $197,000. Years later, their value pumped up to $213,000 to $265,000.
I really appreciate your bringing them in today.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to hear these kinds of values.
When her mother went to clean the house of an elderly neighbor that passed away, she was given this bracelet to do with it as she pleased. She was smart to keep the bracelet in her possession because it turned out to be a valuable piece.
It's very classic Bakelite design. It's called the Philadelphia bracelet.
The guest brought in the bracelet and some purses which she acquired while collecting. All items were made from Bakelite, a synthetic plastic material invented by a Belgian chemist, Leo Hendrik Baekeland. The pieces were in the Art Deco style and widely made during the 20th century. Like most vintage items, the demand for Bakelite items became higher over the years. The guest was absolutely thrilled to hear the value of her items.
And I'm going to say conservatively, it's worth between $6,000 and $8,000. No way!
In total, the items valued between $9,000 to $11,000.
Oh, thank you so much. Am I allowed to hug you, or is that not
Amazing. We've been presented with a sculpted figurine. Our guest received this figurine from a friend. This piece of art originates from the Pueblo of Cochiti people in New Mexico and dates back to the late 19th century. Although this figurine was made for sale to the tourist,
these figures were made strictly to sell to the tourist, and they started making them pretty early. This one was probably made 1890, 1900, right in there.
The design on both the front and the back verifies its authenticity. This particular figurine is of smaller size, with distinct features like the full design pattern. A figurine sculpted in the late 19th century, imbued with a profound cultural significance to the people of Cochiti, New Mexico, would be valued at...
If this was to come up for sale in a gallery in Santa Fe, it would bring somewhere $3,000 to $5,000.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm not kidding.
Jane Crafter, a former LPGA golfer and current collector, brought in a unique golf club. The appraiser recognized her immediately as a fellow golf enthusiast.
I played from 1981 till 2004, lucky enough to win one official event on the LPGA down in Florida.
Crafter, who began collecting golf antiques after her professional playing career, explained she invested around $300 in the club. This golf club likely originated in the 1800s, a period known for long-nosed clubs.
Because you see how it's stamped Stewart here?
Yes.
There is no major club maker named Stewart.
The mystery began with the club's stamp. Stewart was identified, but no prominent club maker of that name existed. A possibility emerged. The stamp belonged to the owner rather than the maker. Despite the lack of a definitive origin, they placed the auction estimate between...
We think an auction estimate is between $400 to $600, and we think you should insure it for about $1,500. So you're in good shape.
Here's a piece that presents vintage craftsmanship. It's a cut yellow diamond ring with a fascinating history. The original cut was created around 1902 by Joseph Asher, who has gone down in history as one of the world's best diamond cutters. This piece has an octagon shape resembling a hall of mirrors.
It is actually a precursor to the emerald cut, and this became very popular cut in the 20s and 30s, and then it just went out of fashion.
Also, the color of the diamond is yellow, often referred to as a canary diamond.
The hard thing about this diamond is to measure it because it has so many facets and cuts. I came up with around 3.20, 3.25 carats.
The setting is platinum with a delicate pierced mounting. A rare find like this diamond ring is esteemed for its unique cut and vivid color that's valued at,
I would say at auction today, $75,000 to $100,000.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding.
acquired from an elderly couple in southwest Tulsa. This cradle board and photograph have an intriguing story of trade and discovery. The cradle board, used by Osage and Pawnee tribes for centuries, is believed to date back to around 1890 and is a rare example of woodland's traditional cradles. The board is missing its protective bow and straps, which would have held the baby securely. This photograph depicts a baby, possibly the same one carried on the cradle board.
He's wearing a beautiful ribbon applique robe, which was one of their specialties. These are very rare. The Pawnee and the Osage made these woodlands traditional cradles. These date back centuries.
The cradle board shows signs of careful craftsmanship, with no evidence of modern tool use. The paint on the cradle board is likely a stain made by the Indians.
That's probably a stain made up by the Indians. Yep.
Berries, the first one thing.
Despite its lack of flashiness compared to other tribal cradles, this cradle board is estimated to be worth between
the cradle board, probably $3,000 to $4,000.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's a wonderful, very rare piece.
Made a good trade.
Yeah, great trade.
While the photograph is valued at around
the photo's probably worth $300 or $400 just as a nice photo.